How's it going, everybody? Today we're playing the city building game Foundation. I'm going to do a full walkthrough along with some tips and little tricks that I've found. The game's still in alpha, so there's a lot of bugs being worked out. But if you do want to get a jump start on it, it's a really fun game. Down below, I'm going to have timestamps where if you're having trouble with anything specific, villager happiness or building houses, I'll timestamp those below so you can click straight ahead to them. But let's go ahead and get started and start a new game. Okay, so the first thing I want to go over are the toolbars. So here we have our villager information menu. This is really helpful. I found while playing through it, shows you your villager count here, the number of days until you get your next group of villagers walking by. Whenever a group of villagers walks by, you have a chance of getting all of them or some of them. Warning window is kind of bugged right now. It'll change colors, but it always says all is good. There's your villager count. There's your villager happiness, and then this is the resource panel. Okay, so there's your quests. Quests pop up on the side. You can right click to make those go away. And going on with the top of the toolbar, we have the paint development areas. We'll put something down so that we can go ahead and do that, but first thing we need to do is our building tool. So here you have general, monument, and decoration. We'll start off with the little center, which just, let's put the center down here. So now we have our villagers, quest complete. Once again, you can right click that and make it go away. New extraction is available. New zone extraction is available, and then we've unlocked some other things that we can build as well. So let's zoom in here on our little village, and let's go over the first thing, which is the zones that you can paint. So we have extraction and forbidden. Forbidden is just a way to help. You can kind of guide your villagers, because all your villagers will make their own roads and paths, and if you don't want them going a certain way because of an aesthetic or the way it looks, you can create forbidden land. And you do that just by holding left click down, and you can get rid of it by holding right click and going back over. So it's just like paint. And same with paint, if you want it to get bigger, you can see here in the bottom, it says hold control and use your mouse wheel. This gets really helpful whenever you start to get a lot bigger of a civilization, because you really need to cover a lot of area, and the small one is just, if you don't know how to make it bigger, it just takes forever. So extraction. So what we do here is extraction means the villagers are allowed. Pause it too. The villagers are allowed to extract resources from that area. So we would paint these trees, for example, and now our villagers are allowed to cut down these trees. They're not going to cut down trees anywhere else but where it says you can cut them down, and this will cause some problems because you'll have some woodcutters, and they'll just stop working if there's no more area for them to extract on the map, and the game doesn't really tell you that. So that I found that to be a little bit of an issue, at least in this stage of the game. So now you can toggle that on and off to see what zones you have on the map. Your state manager. So this is, you have labor, kingdom, and clergy. Labor are your people. Kingdom is the king who you are under, and the clergy, of course, is the church. You get missions. Courier will come and give you missions, and you complete those missions. It's usually giving them berries or some sort of food. Then you unlock influence and splendor. So the splendor is what gives you the. So if I build a house, or if I build something to do with labor that's aesthetic, typically I'll get some splendor from it. And if I complete missions, I'll get influence. And once you hit a certain amount of splendor, you unlock different upgrades, and you have to use your influence to then purchase those upgrades. It'll make a little bit more sense later. Territory, this just opens up your zones here. Each one costs 500 gold, and if you do accidentally click on one that you already own, it'll give you the option to get rid of it, so just be careful if you're clicking around too fast, because you can accidentally click on it. Here's your budget sheet, your income versus expense sheet. It tells you your week and your last week. Best way to make money on this game is to sell food to your own villagers, and then also trade. We'll go into trade in a little bit. Yeah, on the bottom here, we've got villager lists. So these are all the villagers. You can sort them from arrival, name, job, status, happiness. It gives them all names, and it tells you what their job is. You click on it, and then it tells you all the available jobs that we have right now and how experienced they are at it. As the villager does more of a job, they get more experienced at it, and then they grow in levels. So obviously, and any villager can do any job. I assume that as their level grows at it, they can become more efficient at it, but I'm not totally sure at this point. Workplace list also becomes very helpful when you start growing in the game. So I'll show you that whenever it pops up. And then this is really useful too. This is your desirability layover. So you do it just lets you see what areas are fertile. Obviously, there's a lot of fertile areas. The only areas that won't be fertile are kind of near the bushes and anywhere you put down like a wood cutting camp. And then iron ore, the only thing that lights up is like the single ore deposits. There's one here and there's one here. And that's where your guys are going to go to mine the ore. First thing you want to do is lay down your lumber hut. That red circle that was there, what that is it kind of, a lot of these manufacturing jobs and sound jobs put off a radius. It basically tells the people they don't like that noise, so they're not going to want to put their houses near that. So now that we have the lumber camp, you can see nothing's happening on it because we don't have a builder. We'll go to our villager list here, and we'll make Jacob a builder. So now Jacob's a builder, and he's going to go build that. We can do 2 builders, and then as soon as that woodcutter's built, we're going to need a woodcutter to work there. Now you can see there's a little exclamation point here in red that says can't find a place to work. So as soon as that gets built, they're going to be able to find a place to work because the woodcutter will be open. And I'm not sure exactly how many jobs the woodcutter takes. I can't remember exactly, but it will take several people to work there. And wood is probably the most important resource in the game. So now we've built our wood camp, we have our woodcutter, and we've painted the extraction zone already. So he's already getting started cutting the wood because we've given him an area to extract. So let's go up to the berry plant here, and let's do the same thing. You always got to make it an extraction zone, otherwise they will not take anything out of it, they won't touch it. Let's place down a gathering hut. Now our builders are going to go up there and build it, and then we'll go back to our villager list here, and we'll assign a couple of foragers. And the foragers are the ones that will pick the berries, and that's our main food supply until we eventually can do fishing and farm wheat and turn this into bread. So the next thing we'll do is a stone cutting camp. As you can see here, there's some stones up here. So we'll pop that down, and our builders will get right on it building the stone camp, a stone cutter camp. And for the stone cutter camp, you have to do the same thing. You have to let them know that they can extract from those stones. Otherwise, they're not gonna get anywhere near it. Okay, so we've got our stone cutter camp built, and we're going to pop open the villager list and make a couple of our villagers stone cutters. So now we've got stone cutters, we've got our wood cutters, and we've got our foragers. You can see here now it says we're making -1 a turn, and if you open up our budget, you can kind of look there and see why it's a little bit confusing. Basically, we lost 68 gold last week because of spending, and it was just more than we brought in. And on this week, we're continually down about -11 because all of these villagers' jobs cost us money. We have to pay the villagers, but then in turn, the villagers will purchase things from us, and thus an economy is born. Eventually, we're going to need all this stuff, so let's go ahead and pop down our well. The well, you saw that green circle there, that means people will, it'll increase the desire for people to live in that zone. So if we pop up the desirability level again and put in residential, you can see that there's low desirability, even it's not built yet, but because it's near that lumber camp, people don't want to live there. And then, like I said, industrial buildings also cause low desirability, and basically anywhere that's not green is low desirability. We're talking about trade right now while they're doing that. Basically, as you complete these objectives, you just turn it in. So as soon as I get 20 planks, I can complete this, and it opens up the trading panel. And you can see here we're trading with North Berry, they're our neighbors, and they will sell us honey for 40 gold, glass for 50 gold, tools for 20 gold, barrels for 40, fish for 10. And then they will buy from us berries, polished stone, planks, and wine. So now that we have our granary complete, I want to look at that. Now this granary, the menu, it looks confusing, and the entire interface of this game I think needs a little bit of work. But basically what you'll do is if you had an open villager, you can click that and it'll automatically assign an open villager. Because we don't, it's not going to do that. But we have these 4 slots here. The slots give you the option to refuse, accept, stock maximum, and empty the stock out. So the granary is designed to hold our food, raw food, luxury goods, and granary, if that doesn't make sense, and other grains, I guess, other products. And as we assign a villager, we'll click, for example, right now we can stock berries. So what this villager will do is he will go to the berry farm, he will pick up berries, and he will store them here just regularly. If we really want to store a lot of berries, he'll stock the maximum. If we have like 100 berries in and we don't want that many in there, we'll empty stock. If we don't want him to stock anything at all, we'll refuse. Now the point of stocking is you can only trade and complete objectives with items in your stock, in your granary. So it's kind of weird, but you'll see maybe that I have 50 berries here and I have a mission that says I need to put in 20 berries, but I'm not able to do that. Well, I'm not able to do that because maybe the berries are still just sitting at the berry forger. Maybe the berries are at one of the vendors, but because the berries are not sitting in your granary, you're not going to be able to use those berries. So that's something that's really confusing. And the granary itself, it's just kind of, it's confusing. It took me a long time to figure out exactly how much of everything I needed to keep here and why I needed to keep it there. Let's put a villager in the granary because that's what it says. So we're gonna fire one of our builders because we're not building anything. To fire the employee, you can just right-click on it, and then we can click again to open up the possible jobs, and we'll go to transporter. And so because we didn't assign him to a specific place, he just looked for a job as a transporter and found that there was an open job at this granary. So they do kind of have a little bit of their own AI. Let's go to the market and talk about the market a little bit. The market menu, you can see the building menu itself. Let's go over that for a second because that can be, the bigger the buildings get, the more complicated it gets. So we see in the market we have the option of a food stall, a goods stall, and a luxury goods stall. Right now we're just going to do the goods stall. So we click this down here. Now we can hit construction and the construction will start. Or you can group together several different stalls for this market panel. So if I hit start construction and then went back to the tool and did another one, the stalls themselves are not going to be grouped together. And it's really nice to have everything grouped together because then you click on that group and you can see the data for everything. So let's do a secondary food stall. So now, and then they can click together and kind of go back to back like that automatically if you like that look. If not, you can just do kind of 2 side by side. And then we have the option of putting little tents on them just to give it a little bit more aesthetic. You can see if you do that you get that little star right there that says 2, and that is your Splendor. So because we added that little flare to it, our Splendor goes up. We go up to our Splendor, and we can see that, well, it's not built yet, but when it's built, we'll have increased Splendor. So let's put down some barrels, just stuff like this increases your Splendor, a little sign that says food here, and then we'll start construction. Now it's not going to finish because it needs planks. It shows us that it's got 10 out of 30 wood it needs, 0 out of the 10 cloth, and 0 for 1 on planks. Now you say, okay, well, where's our cloth at? Up here, it only shows certain resources. It doesn't show all the resources. What you have to do to get all the resources is click on your resource panel, and you can see we started off with 10 cloth. Let's look at the market panel again. So parts. This tells us the parts of our market. So it has a food stall, a food stall, a food sign, and the barrels. So we put all that down, and you can see it all right here. And then it also shows Jacob's assigned to construction the red tent, so he's building the red tent, the blue tent, and then someone will, once we get the resources, which we don't have yet, it'll be finished building. So I put the barrels down, but I don't have these planks. Now say I want to finish the job, but the barrels, it's not going to complete until these barrels are done. So I can just hit this button here, delete the barrels, and it's fine. Now it'll finish, and the stalls will open as soon as they finish building them. And say we want to add the barrels back, we go to our edit panel here, and it allows us to continue to add on to this specific market. Now say I want to add barrels, and so I go in and I hit monument and go to market, and then I go to barrels. So this barrel is not going to be attached to this market. And that's something that when you start building bigger buildings, it's really important that if you want to add something to this specific market, you click on the market and you go to edit. And then you can add stuff like the barrels, and if you put the barrel down, you click barrels, and it'll do start construction, and it'll restart, well, it won't restart construction, but they'll construct the barrels, and the barrels will be part of this singular market. Like I said, the market's a pretty simple building, so it's not that difficult. But whenever we start, whenever we go into the Lord's Manor and the churches and the barracks, it gets a little bit more complicated. Let's take one of our stone cutters. We'll make him unemployed. We'll click on him again, and we'll make him a market tender. So he doesn't know where to go now because there's no market, or I haven't assigned him to the market. But he should automatically find a place. Yep, and there you go. So he automatically filled the spot. Let's see if he decided to work at the blue tent. So another way you can do that is click on your market, go to general, and then it will give you the option to assign a market tender here. So if there was an available one, you'd click that and it would add it to it. Now after you've done that, you have to remember to go in and click on what you want that market to sell. Right now the only thing they can sell is berries. So now this market is open, selling berries. Okay, so we've hit 100 happiness. It just did that because all the villagers were able to eat, and once the villagers eat, they become happy. So we click on their happiness, and in a little bit, there we go. So right now at the level of serf, the only two things they require is water and food. So we have the well for water, and we have the market for food. So as your status, you upgrade the status of your villagers. That's another way you upgrade your level in the game. As you upgrade that, they have more and more demands, so you have to supply them with more comforts. So the next one will be clothing, and then it goes to like wine, and it just continues. So let's go into housing, because this housing is the most confusing part of the game by far. And all the videos I've watched and things I've read, there's no real help for housing. So here's the best way I found it to work out housing. People try on this game to make them live in certain areas. So say you only want them to live near the well, near the town. You only want them to build certain houses here. That's not how this game works. These villagers will build the houses closest to where they work. So they will want to build a house close to where they work. So if you're trying to build this game where you have everyone lives down here, everyone works over here, the village is up here, the game doesn't really work that way. The villagers will pretty much demand to always live closest to where they work. So right now, since everyone's close together, it's fine because everyone's just going to build their house real close. But once you really start to expand, say I would just want all my villagers to live on this hill up here. I think that would look really cool if they all have houses up on this hill. It's not going to work. What's going to happen is the villagers, you'll be able to see on the panel that, there we go, that residential space is low. I don't know if, I guess you can see that. It says residential space low. Now I just added that whole little residential zone, and it still says that. There's only 9 villagers, so how is it still low? Well, we go back, and let's add more residential zones. So let's say they can live anywhere in these woods, Let's say they can live up on this hilltop, basically anywhere we can. Anywhere around here. Let's see what it says. Still low. So how is the residential space low when there's only 10 villagers and now half of my map is taken up? Well, here's what I do. You just let those guys live wherever they want. If you want to fix this, I still kind of call it a bug, but you can see now, residential space is high. They're going to want to live where they want to live, and if you're having this bug on the game where you always run into problems with residential space, literally just size up your paintbrush here, and just tell them they can live wherever they want, because that's the only way right now I've found to make them happy. So these three factors you see here are what determines how many passing migrants will come into your village and become villagers. So happiness, employment, and residential space. Residential space is the easiest one to control. You just always make sure there's plenty of residential space. Now, like I said, with residential space, some of the desirability is low. So the best way to increase that is you go down to decoration, and we have the sheep statue. It costs 100 gold. It takes 20 tools and 50 polished stone. That is a lot of resources, but you see how big of a green circle it goes around. So let's turn on our layer of residential. So people like to live down here because it's away from these buildings and it's close to water. Let's say people want to live up here. Let's pause the game real fast. Let's put this here, and we instantly see all this desirability level go up to average. That will also have a factor in your residential space level. So you can have everything there, but if no one has anywhere to live because the desirability is so low, it's going to say your residential space is low. So a little bit of a hint, a hack, is to throw down one of these sheep and then hit pause. What this does is it gives you the benefit of that green area, and no one's going to make that sheep. No one's going to take any stone over there. No one's going to take any tools over there. And you can do that anywhere you want as long as you have the 100 gold, which is a small price to pay. Right now, I don't have the 100 gold. But as the game goes on and you really need to increase the amount of desirable place for people to live, because this will be a big problem at residential space, I've found that right now it's bugged to where as soon as you lay that sheep down, desirability goes up. The other factor is employment. Employment's high because basically everyone in my village has a job, so it's always important, if you want villagers to keep coming in, that you always keep building shops and places for them to work. Otherwise, if there's nowhere for them to work, they're not going to come in. And then happiness. Happiness, like I said, happiness is determined by food and water right now. So that's pretty simple to do. What we're going to do now that this basic tutorial is done is we're going to hop over to another one of my villages that's fully grown, so that we can better go over more of the late game stuff without having to play through again. So here's a village that I worked on for the past couple hours. As you can see, it's much more sprawling than the other one. I know I'm no artist when it comes to city building, but no big deal. As you can see, the top here, we have bread, we have clothing, we have milk and cheese, but that's still not all of our resources. So here now is our full resource list, where we can see everything that we have. I don't know why they choose to put some up here and some down here. Haven't figured that out yet. But let's go over a couple things now that it's a little bit more late game. Let's do my overlay so we can see now about our zoning. As you can see, the zoning's kind of all over the place. We get zoning for hunters. We have zoning for crops. We have zoning for extraction. The blue is still extraction. And then this teal, I forgot what's the teal even for. Hunting. The red's still forbidden. Green is reforestation. That's right, reforestation. So you can kind of put a woodcutter right next to a reforester, and they'll continually plant new trees and cut down trees, so you don't have to clear out your whole map of trees. They just continually grow and cut down trees. Um, and so you always, this, I know it looks a little bit crazy, but as you can see, the residential, I've pretty much made the whole map residential. You can see this green outline here, it's all residential. And we go over to housing and residential space. High. Employment is low, happiness is low. I'm struggling with the late game happiness because as you get more and more of these of the villagers, it's tough to make sure that they have everything they need. So my villagers right now are lacking food, and I've got you know, you have to make sure you have enough shops. Like look at this little shop here. Everybody in the whole village is trying to get food, but you know, let's see. We click on this market. He's got 27 bread. So let's see how fast that 27 bread goes away. So yeah, it drains down pretty quickly because of how many villagers they are. Already sold 44 bread this week. These guys are hungry. The other thing they're lacking is religion. So I've got a church here. I've got a church here. I've got a monastery here. I've got another church there. So I've got 3 churches just in this area, and then my 4th church is over here. So I've got 300 people and 4 churches, and they're still not finding the time to go to church. Let's look into the advanced buildings a little bit. So here we have my first Lord. This was actually my first Lord Manor here that I built. And as you can see, I messed up on it a little bit. So I created the Lord Manor, the core, the towers, the extension, and what you do is you give each one of them a function. So Great Hall, Treasury, Study Room, Bailiff Office, and Tax Office. These 2 come a little bit late game, but the Treasury, each tower, everything you make a treasury allows your max coin to go up that you can hold, and the Great Hall functions basically I think is Splendor and allows you to promote villagers to higher statuses. Finally, we have the study room, which is where you can assign a villager to study the blueprints that you get. Now, I wouldn't do this early game because if you assign a scholar, he's just going to sit there and do nothing for months and months and months and months until you finally get a blueprint. You get a blueprint by sending out your army, they attack, they come back with the blueprint sometimes. Once they have that, then you can assign a scholar. He can go, he can look at the blueprint, and then you'll unlock something else. Right now in the beta, or in the alpha, if you do that, the game kind of bugs and it says that you're using mods. So then you can't unlock any more achievements. So if you're kind of hunting for achievements, I would recommend not studying those blueprints because it's going to mod you out. So here's our wooden keep, which is where we keep, I know it's ugly, sorry, where we keep our soldiers. So you can see each building holds a max capacity, and these soldiers are designed to go out and complete missions that will then bring you back more gold, more splendor, or more gold and items. The training dummies. Let's talk about a problem I had with these soldiers is they weren't training. So we go to Army Manager, and this pulls up our full list of soldiers. I was having an issue where I had soldiers, but they stayed on. I don't have any now, but they stayed on untrained. What you have to do is you make sure you assign them a weapon. If they don't have a weapon, they're not going to train. So the spear's the more advanced one, the sword's the early basic one. And what happens over time is they go from wounded when they come back from a mission. Some of them will get hurt. They go wounded, and then they'll go back up to fully trained. So fully trained, you can see his strength here is 40. Wounded, his strength is 30. This guy's still training. You just saw his number go up a little bit. So between each mission, you have to give it time for your soldiers to recuperate and get back up to their full strength. And once again, in this building panel, it's important that if you want to add something to this keep, that you don't go into building, you don't go over to keep, where's it at? Don't go over to keep and add something. What that'll do is it'll create a completely new building. So always, if you want to add to it, you have to click on it again and go to edit. I can't stress how important that is because that will really, really mess you up. Our next thing we're going to talk about, which I had some trouble with figuring out, and I saw some people online did, is the monastery. So a lot of people are having trouble because once you create the monastery, it allows you to do wine, honey, and then on the back here I have herbs. So, well, honey's here. So wine, honey, and herbs. The way that the game functions is you concede a villager to the monastery, which means if you have an open villager and you want someone to work in the monastery, you have to concede a villager. Now a lot of people, bless you, Ken. Now a lot of people were having trouble with this because they would do that and no one would go into the monastery. Well, in order to concede a villager to the monastery, you have to add the extension and make it a dorm. So if you just build the base and you just build this stuff, it's not going to allow you to add them. You have to physically go put on an extension. And once you make that extension, you can assign it as a dorm. So dorms in Great Hall. Once you assign it as a dorm, it then gives you 10 capacity, where you can add in the brothers and then assign the brothers to a job. So as you can see, I've got 2 as beekeepers, 3 as wine growers, 2 working in the winery, 3 more as wine growers, and yeah, so it's a little bit confusing. I think right now I'm still having trouble with our herb garden. It says 0 of 2 assigned, and I have no way here of adding someone to the herb garden, so maybe that's a little bit of a bug, or maybe it's just something I still need to figure out. Let's go down to our workplace list. So this is all of the jobs that we have, and you can see here if it's green, it'll say 1 out of 1 or 1 out of 2, and it shows me that all my jobs have someone in them. So this is really a really helpful late game tool. So let's look at this market. So I hit this green button, and that just hired one of my free people to go work at the market. The problem is now we need to click on luxury goods stalls and go to it, and what do we see here? We never assigned anything for them to sell. That's a big problem that pops up a lot, is you'll make all these stalls because you'll fall behind. You're like, I need stalls, I need food, my villagers need to eat. You'll assign someone to it, and then you'll forget to give them something to sell. So like right here, I've got a worker, luxury goods, nothing to sell. So I'm going to say he can sell honey. So now this guy will go to the honey spot, pick up the honey, bring it to his store. Lastly, oh, well, here we have status and promotions. So as you promote your villagers, their demands go up, and it costs a different amount to promote each. Right now, it really doesn't matter who I promote because I've hit all the objectives. But in earlier levels, you have to hit a certain amount of commoners, then you have to hit a certain amount of serfs, then commoners, then citizens, soldier. You can promote all to soldier, and then the soldiers get promoted to knight. But I can promote all of them. It doesn't really matter anymore because, like I said, I've hit all my numbers. So let's go over the last confusing part that a lot of people have trouble with, including myself, which is almost the brother to the granary. Let's see if I can find out where it is, which is the storehouse. All right, there's the granary. So you can see here I've got 4 people working, and they're supposed to be supplying items for me to then, when the trader comes into town, the trader can only go to the granary to buy or to sell. So if we don't have beer in stock, he's not going to be able to buy that beer. All right, here is our warehouse. So our warehouse is the same as the granary, but instead of food, it has items. So once again, we've told them we've had a lot of tools stored up, so I put it on empty stock because the tools were just sitting waiting to be traded, and I wanted them out in the hands of our builders. You can see we had 200 stock, and Temporary Village Center had 59. One of our this storehouse stock had 88. The blacksmith building, which is which is who makes it, has 9, and the other blacksmith has 50. So it's like other city building games where you have little guys pushing around the carts, except for I feel like so far it's very confusing in this game to figure out where stuff needs to be and how to get it there. And the villagers don't do a great job of putting stuff where it needs to be. I don't think so. A lot of stuff will be sitting around instead of being in the market, so maybe it moves a little slower and it takes a little bit more time. But your economics of scale in this game, as you grow, you really have to make sure you're building up the backbone. That's something I kind of rushed through this one, and that's why the happiness is so low, because I kept bringing villagers in to grow, but I never put down the infrastructure needed to support those villagers, so I started having lots of problems. As you can see, these guys are just kind of building houses wherever they want to. I've got tons of these statues down that are partially built. I just forgot to pause them in time. But what that does, let's look at the overlay, residential, and you see all these bright greens. Now, like I said before, you maybe want everyone to live in one area. Well, that's not going to happen. This is my one of my pubs, one of my taverns, and it has a lot of employees, and these employees want to live and want to eat near where they work. So you almost have to have like a little section. Every area is going to have its own little village where people can eat and work. I've got all of these hunters here. This is kind of my little hunting zone, and guess what? They want to live right next to where they hunt, and they'll be pissed if you don't let them. So just let people kind of live wherever they want to. All right, let's look at the trade menu. So as you can see, at this point in the game, I've unlocked all 3 of my trading partners, and now we go to trading resources. Once again, the trading resources panel, a little bit confusing. It's got all my resources on here. It has no trade, buy until inventory reaches the value, sell above all of the value. So you set a value, I've set 100, and I want to sell anything above 100. So what will happen is the villager at the warehouse will go out, bring wood in, store it in the warehouse. When the trader comes into town, if there's more than 100 wood, he is allowed to buy that wood, and then we'll get a little bit of money for it. There's no real clear, nothing shows how much the trader bought, how much the trader's leaving with, what the trader's leaving with. It shows you how much they'll give for the wood, but it never really shows you how much they took, how much. There's no menu for saying, okay, maybe this village really wants wood, and there's no numbers going back and forth. There's just, sometimes the trader comes into town, and when he leaves, you get a certain amount of money. So the trading panel, I think, needs a little bit of work right now. Berries, I'm having them buy berries until it reaches 100, so I'm at 119. So if the trader comes into town and says, I have berries for sale, everything's automatic, so you don't ever get to interact with the trader, which I think makes the game a little bit more tough. So you can't go to the trader and say, okay, buy berries. You have to use this trading panel to let the trader know what you want to do. And it doesn't always work right. So early game, say you come in and you really need food. Your village is low on food. So you say, okay, buy food. I've got money. Just buy food. You'll buy some food, but you're not going to buy that full 100. Here is what our Splendor page looks like now. You can see that labor, kingdom, and clergy. I've got all the Splendor. I've almost got enough Splendor in kingdom. I can build some more houses. And you get a trade bonus. This trade bonus does go away eventually, so it kind of keeps making you do the missions. So I can activate the trade mission again, and I lose a little bit of that influence. The way you get influence, like I said, there'll be a little horse that comes down to wherever your first little house is at. That's where he's going to come to, and he'll come there every time and give you missions, and you can choose labor, kingdom, or clergy to complete those missions and get your influence. But as your Splendor goes up, so as you build like the clergy, I've got all those churches and the monastery, so my clergy Splendor is really high. But my ugly little forts here don't do too much. This is my other one. You really have to just build these buildings just to be treasuries. One of the goals is to hit 10,000 gold, and you have to build all these buildings just to be able to do that. Here's my study room, and I have my male scholar. They start losing their names and getting numbers once you get over a couple hundred. And as you can see, if there's a blueprint that he can look at, there will be a little option here to study the blueprint. That does kind of bug out sometimes, so you have to be careful with it. I had a situation where I had a blueprint, I had a scholar, and he was not reading it. I then clicked on the mail, I clicked on the guy's name, and it told me that he didn't have a way to get into his room. So for whatever reason, the room that I put the scholar, the study in, he wasn't able to get there. So you have to be careful with where you put doors, because there are some little bugs where you can block entrances. There we go. So let's look at military again. Here's our army. They're not fully trained, but they seem to be doing okay. Available missions. It's difficult and it's far. So far, all of them have been far. The difficulty ranges from impossible or very hard to easy. We go to view mission, and let's give it a try. I'll prepare my troops, deploy them right away. So now it's gone from available to accepted. Once it goes to accepted, you then assign the available villager. So you just hit it once, and you can choose. So Knight Herman, level 6. And as you add, you'll see your success probability go up. Now, extreme you would think is the highest it gets, but the way these missions work is once you send them out, they're going to be successful or fail, and if they're successful, it will ask them to do another mission while they're still out, and it'll give you a possibility. So the more soldiers you add after the third mission, which is like the final mission, you're going to start losing troops, so you want to add as many as possible. So let's just do a little example. We'll send all these troops. They've been deployed, and then we can see them rolling out. So we're back to the military mission. We are victorious, but so all those soldiers I sent out for that one mission. What he's saying is your troops have been helpful. The matter of the evil neighbors. That said, the matter seems to be far from being resolved. We still need your support. So we go keep my troops. What that does is it says, okay, it basically gives you a second mission for these same soldiers to do. So the difficulty is difficult, distance is far, but success probability is extreme. And the reason it's extreme is because I added on all those extra soldiers just to be sure that I could finish all 3 of the missions. So this is a good little tip. Just add as many soldiers as you can, and you'll get better stuff. So let's keep my troops with you, and then they're going to keep doing their thing. Okay, so it says here, soldiers were victorious. So now it's offering me a third battle. Extremely difficult, this one is. Distance is still far away, but my success probability is still extreme because I added all the soldiers on. So let's keep them out there. Okay, so my soldiers were victorious, and your soldiers are back from a mission. So they're going to come in from off map somewhere, where they're all trucking in from. Right here they all come. Your little column with all the goods they got. If they're red, I guess maybe that means they got injured. That's blood or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm pretty sure most of them go out blue, so maybe they did get a little bit hurt when they were out there. And they come back to this place and they give me what I won. So because it was a extremely difficult quest, or it was just difficult, sorry. We got 2,000 gold, 32 bread, 42 iron, 23 tools, 63 polished stone, 21 wine, 6 jewelry, and then 5 spears. The extremely difficult ones bring back even more stuff, and every once in a while you'll get the blueprint that comes with that, and then that's how you discover the best blueprints. So that's all the video for today. I just want to go over the main things one more time. If you're having trouble, always remember economics of scale. As you grow, just keep your infrastructure growing as well. Make sure you have stone cutters. Make sure you have wood cutters. All of these buildings will absolutely drain your stone and drain your wood. Let the people live where they want to live. Allow the residential zones to go everywhere if you have problems with that. Abuse the sheep for as much as you can, because just start the sheep, pause it, and that'll increase residential happiness. And then food vendors. Make sure that your food vendors are kind of sporadic around the city. This game is not designed to be broken into segments. So thanks for watching. If you liked the video, let me know. If you have any other questions about the game itself, put it in the comment section below, and make sure you subscribe, and you'll be updated next time I do the update video. Thanks for watching.